Hello, everyone, and welcome to this interactive webinar with Mentimeter. We're just about to start. My name is Oscar. I am here with Emily.
Yes. Hi, everyone. Excited to be here.
Very nice to have you here. Emily is joining us here today for our little retrospective webinar.
Yes.
Yes.
I was so happy when you guys asked me to do this.
Yes, of course. I mean, you're probably one of the top retro experts here at Mentimeter. So
Could be, yeah.
super great to have you. You've asked our audience a question here, yes?
Yes. So I really like asking these kind of questions before I do anything similar to this, just to kind of get a feeling for like where people might be at, like what kind of experience they might be bringing to this. So to kind of adapt to it.
Awesome. And as you can see, we are using Mentimeter right now. So if you haven't, now is a great time to take your phone or use your computer and go to menti.com, and we can see the code here 95134830. Or if you like to use the QR code, we love the QR code here, Menti. So you just hold your camera up and you'll be able to join. And of course, we'll always have the code up top here. So if you ever need to join, you could just do that. Let's see, we're getting some answers. We have a couple of yeses. Let me do percentage. So half of us are saying yes.
Yes. Yeah, no, but it is kind of like a nice spread. Ooh. I love that there are a couple of kind ofs. Like, I honestly don't think that's very uncommon that you maybe either like think you might have, or you kind of like the idea and tried it out, but you're not really sure if that's exactly how you should be doing it.
Yeah.
So, or what do you think of kind of?
Yeah, I mean, I guess there's a lot of ways to do a retro, right? And we'll be focusing on kind of a bigger retro for this.
Oh yeah,
session.
definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm used to doing them every other week.
Yeah.
And this is more like a year perspective, which is very timely with where we're at. Yeah, in the yearly calendar.
Exactly. Let's see here. We have 40 people. We have 9 answers so far. Once again, we're just about to get started with this. And this entire webinar will be very interactive. So I really urge you. I mean, I'm going to keep talking about this. Come to menti.com, put in that code, and make your voice heard. We also have turned on the comments from audience.
Yeah.
So if you want to send a little comment, we have one here, retrospective for the win. Awesome.
I agree fully on that.
Yeah, maybe if you want to let us know in the comments where you're sitting right now. We're in the Mentimeter headquarters in Stockholm, Sweden. And it'd be just nice to know if we have people, if you're sitting at home or where in the world you're at. Okay, we have Nacka, Sweden. Very nice. That's kind of close. Yeah, so keep the comments coming. Also, we have the Q&A activated. So if you have any questions throughout the webinar, just feel free to go to menti.com, put in your questions, and Emelie and I will be looking at them towards the end.
Yeah.
We have another Stockholm, Sweden represent here.
Yeah.
I like that, yeah.
Not ready to switch to Swedish just yet, but...
Not yet. Let's see what else here. We have...
I really like... Ooh, hey, Spain. So I really like this little this shape that's taking form here.
Yeah,
like really... we have like yes is only leading by very little at this point.
Even 8% saying
yeah, I
so
mean...
hopefully we'll be able to teach all of you something.
Yeah, I want to switch that to yes, like solid yes or no.
Solid yes or no. Awesome. Should we get this show on the road?
Let's.
Once again, welcome everybody to this live webinar called How to Run an End-Year Retrospective for Your Hybrid Team. We're getting some love here from the audience. We have Mike from Berkshire, UK with us as well. My name is Oscar Svernlom. I do the webinars and the YouTube content here at Mentimeter, and I'm joined by the lovely Emelie Markström, who is a product designer.
Yeah.
And Emelie, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes. So, hi, I'm Emelie. And as mentioned, I'm one of the product designers here at Mentimeter, which means that I'm part of a so-called product team. And it means that we're doing retros all the time. I'm estimating about 200 retros down, thousands to go. And I've actually had retros with my husband. So I'm a big retro fan.
That's awesome. And when you talk to your husband, like, what do you bring up in the retro then?
Well, that's confidential. But
Okay, yeah, fair enough.
What's said in the retro stays in the retro. But I can highly recommend to give it a go. Like it's because it's a time to kind of look back at what's been going on, what's working, what can be better.
Yeah, yeah.
So it was a great times.
Awesome. That's really useful. And
Who are you?
thank you.
Yeah.
I am Oscar Svernlov. I don't do retros with my girlfriend. Maybe I'll start doing that. But I do the webinars here at Mentimeter. So everything and anything in terms of content to help you all become better presenters. We have someone from the audience who loves popcorn. I do really love popcorn. I love the app that we're using now as well, Mentimeter.
Yeah, I mean, how can you not? Can I just mention something?
Yeah.
So I had a colleague that just joined, and he said that he's been seeing so many of your videos that it felt like he met like a celebrity when he started here. So I thought, yeah, just so you know.
That's very nice. Yeah. That's very humbling. Somebody was asking what kind of popcorn. I think just straight up regular popcorn, a bit of salt, maybe some chili on it.
Ooh.
And then we're good to go.
That sounds good.
We have a very excited audience here. Emelie, do you want to present what we're going to talk about today?
Yes, I would love to do that. So this is the agenda for the webinar. I was planning on first talking a little bit about like what a retro is. What are the challenges that are kind of unique to doing a hybrid retro?
Yeah.
And then going into like examples and very like practical and concrete, like how you can run a hybrid end of year retro. And then after that, there's a live Q&A. And then after that, there's some additional resources that could be very valuable if you're interested in trying this out for yourself.
Awesome. And speaking of Q&A.
Yes.
Once again, folks, I'm not going to stop talking about this.
No, that's fine.
Go to menti.com. This is a live webinar. So everything you write in the Menti will appear in the presentation. You can use the code here or the QR code and send us any questions that you got.
Yes. And I'd like to kind of kick this off with an interactive slide. I like doing this where I can get a feel of what to spend most of my time on. So if you're on menti.com, feel free to kind of answer this so-called like scales question about what part of the agenda are you most looking forward to. And then depending on how people are answering, I can kind of plan my time accordingly. So the first part is kind of introducing like what a retro is, the unique challenges, then going into the practical side, and then the live Q&A, and then the additional resources.
Awesome. What a interesting spread here.
Yes.
We it's like a high and low for a lot of them.
Yeah. No, and that's why I really like this one, like because you can like I can see both like kind of the interest, but also where there's like a big spread in the audience.
I'm gonna hover here. Yeah, very nice. So it looks like a lot of us really know what a metro is, and they also don't know what they know. Yeah.
So I will make sure to bring everyone up to speed, but I will be efficient with it. So
awesome.
Yeah.
We're getting plenty of votes. I'm gonna just pop this up once again, just to make sure that we can get everybody. I know Zainab, who is with us in the chat. She's actually right behind the camera here. She's also sent the voting link. Maybe Zainab, if you want to just send that again, so people can join right away. We really want to get your input here, and it's also a nice way to kind of try it out, how it looks like from the audience too.
Oh yeah. Because if you're planning on doing something like this, you will experience what like your team would in that retro. But cool. Okay, so this is giving me a lot of great information, and I feel like I'm ready to kind of roll on. What do you say, Oscar?
I think that's great. We have a little split there, and it looks like most of us are looking forward to how to actually run it.
Yeah. Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
All right. So just short and sweet, but very accurate, I guess, is just shortly what a retro is. Retro is short for retrospective, which is a name for a meeting or like a sit down. And it's typically within your team. And it's where you kind of look back on a certain period of time or a project or something, and then you reflect on how that went, what you could improve in your ways of working moving forward. And this is, as I mentioned, typically at the end of a so-called sprint, which is very common, like within the tech industry, working agile, if you've ever heard that word before. But it can also be like at the end of a project or a period of time, and that's what we're talking about now, is the end of a year. and they're great to do often. So I mentioned earlier that we do them every 2 weeks, but there are some people that do it every week, and even some that do them like daily. But yeah, so that's just kind of short about what we're talking about when we're talking about a retro. And if you have any questions, feel free to send them in the Q&A. But like, this is kind of a summary of it. So a retro is all about hearing every voice in your team. And it's very important to try to enable honesty, that you're actually getting someone's actual opinion and their perspective of what's been going on, and their ideas of how we could improve this. So because of this, segueing into like the challenges of a hybrid retro, I think most of us are aware of very common challenges and what we mean with hybrid here is that some people are in the room and some people are joining remotely. So that's what we mean with hybrid. And the common challenges that you can have with this, like not seeing everyone face to face, it's difficult to participate when you're remote, and it's hard to participate anonymously. And all of these challenges, like they're even bigger challenges when you're holding a retrospective, especially if this is if this is something new for your team, or if they're not really used to being asked to be honest about these kind of things, because like not everybody is comfortable like challenging how we're doing things. Some are very comfortable, but I fall into that kind of category. But it is important, and that's why I'm really excited to talk about this today and show you all how you could do it.
And I think this is important too, because I know a lot of us probably have been in a lot of hybrid meetings right now, or even remote meetings for that matter, where, you know, it might not be super important to have everybody engaged. I mean, it's important that people listen and they understand what's happening.
Yeah.
But I think it's good that you clarify this, like in a hybrid retro, this is extra important that you create an environment where people can actually make their voices heard.
Yeah, to like be very clear, a retro about like talking about what has happened, that's not someone telling everybody like, this is what happened, these are the conclusions we've made, what do you think? And then some people giving an answer. This is getting everyone's perspective on the table and then reflecting on it. So that's why like getting everyone's voice in there is, it can be a bit of a challenge when you're doing it hybridly. So this is the part that a lot of people were very excited about. And this is going into how you can run an end of a year hybrid retro. And I want to be like super clear, because the way that I've structured this retro is based on 5 stages that did not come from my brain. This comes from bigger brains. And you can find them also in this book, Agile Retrospectives, Making Good Teams Great. And actually, like in the additional resources later,
we'll sharing
there's a video with this author actually walking through them in a very, like in a 10-minute video. It's really, really good. But so let's go through the 5 stages. The first one is about setting the stage. So when you kind of start the retro, you want to talk about like the purpose of it, and also it's really good to ask a so-called check-in question, and that helps them to kind of focus on this past year. And this is something that you guys now get to answer. I like these kind of questions. So this one is, if this year was a theme park ride, which one would it be? And what you guys are seeing in front of you, either in your phone or in a tab somewhere, is a picture with all these different rides, and you can move a dot to which one you feel best represents your past year, and then click submit, I imagine. No, so I just love these kind of check-in questions where you're kind of almost tricking someone into staying focused on the topic, like because while you're looking at these different rides and figuring like which one matches my year, you're actually automatically thinking about your year, about how it has been. I see we've had some crazy years.
Crazy years, especially these 3 down here have gotten, you know, this one is a crazy ride.
That's I think that's what we call. There's a theme park here in Sweden. I think that's what we call Extreme.
Extreme,
Yeah,
yeah.
it looks like that one.
Yeah.
It's like one of the only rides I don't go on. So I hope that all those 4 people, I hope you enjoyed that ride.
Yeah. And once again, if you just joined the webinar right now, feel free to join the presentation as well. Go to menti.com, putting that code in there, 9513-4830, and give this a go. We have a 2 on the roller coaster as well. It's like a kind of not as intense, but it's still ups and downs.
And I'm wondering if they put it on like where in the roller coaster, like, or if it's just kind of the roller coaster, because that's also something you can use is like, where on this roller coaster are we right now in this project? And then like people can put out their little dots.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then like if this was like a real retro, I would then move it over to everybody in the room, like talking about like where, like, are you comfortable, or if they're comfortable to talk about like where they put themselves.
Yeah.
So I would like to ask a question to the audience here, like, because you all will get this presentation afterwards.
Yeah.
So I am curious if there's anyone, because there were quite a lot of people that actually have held a retro before, but even others that might have ever used like a check-in question. But I'm curious to hear if there are any that have any ideas on these kind of check-in questions.
Yeah, and I see here we also gotten a question for us later in the webinar, so that's great. Keep them coming.
Yes.
We have on here, is there something that needs to be addressed?
First, before we start. Ooh, personal cardiogram line. Yeah.
Is that like heart rate, right?
Yeah, I think so too. That is your stress. Yeah, great. And I think this first one, is there something that needs to be addressed first before you start? That's like something I usually do also, like with workshops, like because sometimes you need to give people a moment to kind of check out of like their Slack or email, or like just making sure that we're all focused. Oh, nice. Like, how are you feeling today? No, how are you really feeling today? What is burning this week? What's on your mind right now? Yeah, like these are all great questions. Yes, emojis.
Emojis, so powerful, right? Like one little like box with an emoji can tell you a lot.
So we actually do that every day, the emoji one in my team.
Yeah.
All right. Well, so this is kind of talking about setting the stage. And then the next part is what in the book is called gathering data and generate insights. Sounds very scientific. I mean, it probably kind of is. But it's also just very, very pleasant. So the purpose is to give the whole team like a common standing, like a common understanding of like what has happened, so that you can kind of focus and make the discussions afterwards more valuable. And then once again, I'll show you an example of what that can look like. This is a question, or like another one of those scales ones that you answered for the agenda, where you kind of focus on 4 different important areas that you kind of hope score high or low within your team. So the first one, like, so in this one, you're supposed to rate how much you agree with these statements. The first one is, we made a big difference this year. I'm happy to be on this team. I'm happy with my personal development, or I was under a lot of stress this year. And then to the right, you can see how many have strongly agreed. And then to the left, how many strongly disagree. And then you can also see this kind of, what's it called? Like how everybody's answering.
The average, I guess.
Yes, exactly. And I want to make a point at this stage here is, if you are really interested in like the anonymous part of a retro, please don't point out like, who was this? Like, who was this person that's not happy to be on this team? Like, kind of leave that. You don't have to like actually try to find that person, because that can kind of bring down the honesty from people. But it looks like we've had a pretty great year, but a lot of stress.
Yeah.
I don't like that 8.8 stress number. Like, let's try to get that down. So one thing that is kind of neat that I want to show you, if you ask this question over multiple years, it will actually show you how this answer has changed over time. And it's hard to do that this year if this is the first time you try this out. But this is something that you can do if you're if you're checking in like every other week or even every day. You can start seeing the trends, and you can look at like, this stress level is really high. What were we doing here? We like this more than we like this over here. And how come that is? But let's return to what you can actually find useful if this is your first year webinar, is we can stay here. So at this point, we can kind of ask the team, how come, like, what are the things that we did that ensured that we feel like we made a big difference this year? And we can ask ourselves, like, what is it about this year that make us happy to be on this team? And like, even if you don't try to point someone out, I think it is like kind of important to be mindful that there is someone that isn't really in that same level, and trying to get those voices out. But also a big question, how come we were so stressed this year? And then you can move on into the generating insights. And so I really like this question. It's like, what can we start, stop, or continue doing based on what we saw in the answers? So thinking about like, and if you want to try this feature out, feel free. And in that case, like maybe you can reflect on why you answered the way that you did. In a team, like if we were all in the same team, it would feel more relevant to everybody. So here you can kind of look at like that stress level and see like, is there anything we can stop doing, or is there anything we can start doing to try to reduce? Stop bossiness. Yeah, I mean that's a motto to live by, I feel. Put that on a t-shirt. So it's do more brainstorming sessions, stop having one-on-one sessions, continue having fun while working, start having more fun. And this is like, I want to be like very clear, like at this stage, generating insights, it's a very like open state. Like this is about like generating a lot of insights. Less back-to-back online meetings. Yeah. I can sign up for that as well.
And once again, I think here's a good example of what it could look like, right?
Yes,
like,
exactly.
Of course, it's hard here, you know, for if everybody's in this webinar, if we were a team, right?
Oh, of course.
But as Emelie mentioned earlier, we'll be sending this entire presentation to you. So you can just copy it and create your own Mentimeter account, or copy it to your presentation. So these are just example question of generating insights.
Exactly. And then, as I mentioned, you don't have to really like police this level, because this is all about generating a lot of different ideas, and preferably more than less. Like if you're looking at that stress level, like try to get in like a bunch of different things that we could do, because the next stage is decide what to do. And this is the stage where you commit to the changes you want to make with clear ownership. And the way that this could look, and like they usually say, if you do like retros, a lot of retros, like often, it's important that this is only like one or two things, because you don't want like a long list of things that you have to do all the time. But when it comes to a yearly one, you can ask this question, where it's like based on these things that you saw, like all these insights that we generated, what is one thing that you will start, stop, or continue doing? And this creates like this accountability, or like it's easier to commit to one thing that you're passionate about. Like it's higher chance that you will actually follow through. And the whole team has already seen all the other options that they could do. Like it's not like we forget about all of them. No. Eat less cake. You know, I told not to police anyone, but like I think eating more cake sounds like a more fun year. But you do you. So this is the open-ended one. Is that what we call it?
Open-ended, yeah.
Agree. Okay. So then so like if anybody's like on the phone or in the tab, you can kind of see what your teammates would see when they're answering these questions. Start volunteering. Beautiful. So, and then the final stage, closing the retro. This is the stage where you thank the participants, remind them of the action points, and then you can check out with feedback on the retro. So Esther that actually wrote the book, she says that this is like a mini retrospective on the retrospective, and that's like very Inception. But it is nice to kind of wrap everything up with a question, and you could do it with a word cloud. So in this one, we ask you to describe this retro with one word, and then depending on what people are answering, the words that most people are answering will become bigger. And it's like a nice little way to kind of wrap everything up. And then like you can take this to any level you want. You can make it more specific on the specific things you'd like more feedback on, so you can improve as a facilitator. But yeah, no, this is so nice, awesome, insightful, helpful, fun, sweet. Yeah, and so you can see like an example of what this would look like. Cool, nice. I like being cool. Useful, nice.
And as you mentioned earlier, the nice thing with the word cloud is that, as we can see here, it's dynamic, right? So when somebody sends a word in, it'll change the cloud, and the more words someone will answer, the bigger the word will get. So it gives you really just a very nice overview of whatever you're asking. Here, for example, we've had fun that more people have answered that, so then that becomes bigger.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a great checkout question for sure.
Yeah. So I hope everyone has had a chance to kind of interact with this that are interested. But just a short summary. These are the stages that we went through. First, we set the stage with a check-in question. We asked everyone what theme park ride best represents this year. We gathered data by answering how this year has been more specifically, like on those 4 different scales. Then we generated some insights based on that. So then you can get like ideas on how do we improve this, like reduce this stress number to next year? How do we keep this team spirit going? How to make it even more inclusive? And then we decided what to do by bringing it back to each and every one of us, asking like, what is one thing you could do, start, stop, or continue doing? And then in the end, we closed the retro with that little word cloud.
Awesome. Really nice. I think this summary really wraps it up real nice, and gives also like very clear, all the stages. And yeah, once again, we'll be sharing this whole presentation.
Yeah.
So if you want to copy or steal or borrow any of the examples we've showed here.
So do you feel ready to host? Have you ever hosted a retro?
I haven't hosted a retro, no. But I do feel ready to do it for sure.
Yeah.
We I know we're really good at having like pre-project meetings,
like
so
kicking it off,
getting ideas in, really setting the stage for the project, but not as good as following up. Really love using Mentimeter classes. Awesome. We're getting
hearing that. As a product designer, like I think everyone at Mentimeter, but definitely as a product designer, love just hearing user voices, like the experience of the product.
Awesome. Should we bring in a few audience questions?
Yes, let's do that. That's the next step. We have a slide for that, right?
I think we do. Let's see. There we go. So question 1 here, and feel free, folks, once again, when you're answering or when you're looking at this, go to menti.com, open the Q&A, and you can actually upvote the question. So if you see a question that you like, you could just press the thumbs up on that, and it'll rank higher. We have one here. If you had to pick one quiz that works for hybrid teams or retrospective, what would it be?
So I can kind of interpret it in this different way. Like, so when I see the word quiz here, I'm thinking about like a competitive quiz. Is that usually how people ask this question, or?
It could mean different things. Maybe if you want to clarify in the comments if it's a competitive quiz, but you can start answering.
I'll start from that end. I think so, like this whole gathering data and kind of having this common jumping off point. I think it is really good when everybody can kind of add on to it, but it is also really fun to kind of start off by, like if you've gathered some data, like some things about some metrics that you've reached or not reached, or like where you kind of struggled or whatever, and then having a quiz about it and like having people guess the number before you actually present it. It can really kind of help everyone reflect on like kind of how they think the year has been, and how it actually has been. So that can be kind of like a fun way to start it off. But I also want to kind of put some weight on, like, it is really nice when other people bring in like their own perspective into it.
Awesome. Should we show a quiz, like maybe a multiple choice here, maybe?
Yeah.
So I could just show one example here that you could do. Oh, there's another question there, but we're in Mentimeter here, right, folks? And I could just add a slide and then use the multiple choice.
Yes.
And then, for example, I might ask, how many users does Mentimeter currently have? And then we could put in 50 million, 80, or let's do 100 million, or 200 million. And then I can actually set the correct answer here.
Yep.
And then go and have my audience come and vote.
Exactly.
Would this be a good idea,
and then,
for example?
Exactly. You can do this, and then you can do like, you show the correct answer, and then the next one could be like, so how is this like? How is this compared to what our goal was?
Yeah.
So then, like, the next one could be like, yeah, this is actually 40% more than we were hoping at this point, or this was lower. Like, and that's like a good way to kind of make presenting a lot of data more engaging.
Yeah.
And like, it's good to like first think about like what you think of before you just tell people.
And then if we want to see the correct answer, just press enter here, and then that will show.
Exactly.
So that's a nice little trick. We have a bunch of questions coming in here hot.
Okay.
How do you boost psychological safety in your hybrid retrospectives?
Yes. So I'm really happy that you asked this question. I'm a retro geek, but I'm also a psychological safety geek. And what we mean by that is that you're comfortable to kind of bring your own perspective. You're comfortable to challenge the status quo. And as you might connect the dots here, it's very important to do that in a retro. And I already mentioned some things, like, so if this is like a big issue in your team, I do think that anonymity I can't believe I can't say that.
You got
Anonymity,
it,
yeah. Anonymity is a great tool for that. But also, as I mentioned before, don't try to find who answered that thing that you don't agree with, or you as a facilitator or team lead to be very defensive. Like, if there are things that people are saying, like, this is something that we can do differently, don't go in and just kind of say like, no, we can't do that. Because it can kind of make people feel like, oh, I'm not really comfortable contributing to this retro. So those are some tips in that.
And as you probably know, Mentimeter is by default anonymous.
Oh, yeah.
So by using it, you're already there creating a big psychological safety net. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if your team is not really struggling with psychological safety, I mean, feel free to just kind of, when people answer, to go around the room, like, how did you answer, and that kind of stuff. But because retro, like, the goal is that everybody is super comfortable, right?
Yeah.
And we should always be very comfortable sharing these things. But if you are struggling with psychological safety, anonymity is a very, I said it correctly, is a very strong tool.
Quiz, we answered that one. Is there any template to start with or adjust? I love these hearts and chats appearing in slides, but do not know how to turn it on in my Menti. Oh, that's a good question. I would almost recommend to join one of our product webinars if you want to get to know Menti. Actually, we haven't really gone into the tool here. We've just talked about retrospectives, but Zainab could send that in the chat. We have we do webinars about actually using Mentimeter and how to create presentations like this.
With that said, I believe there is some template that, like, if you share a template, do these settings kind of follow with the template?
Yes, they do. So this actual presentation, you will be sent this, and there everything is activated. So the hearts and the chat. So you can kind of start with that. And we will also send you a bunch of templates at the end of the webinar that you could just copy to your own account.
Yes.
What are some suggestions for a fun, mind-freeing retrospective? How do you guys do it at Mentimeter? I'm very curious to know.
So when do we do our retros? Mondays. Yeah. So this Monday we rotate our facilitation, so we all take turns running it.
Oh,
And
wow.
so
Cool.
this Monday, one of our so-called UI engineers had the task of doing a retro, and he used the sailboat reference, where you talk about what was the wind in your sail, like that kind of pushed you forward. What was the sun that made you happy? Like trying to get like into a totally different mindset, and it can kind of really one help you kind of like that theme park ride question. Like it can kind of get you understanding more what these questions should be about. And there's a lot of different ones. Like I think you can kind of Google like fun mind-freeing retrospective, and you'll see like a lot of different fun ways. And I'd say like most of them you can kind of translate to a tool like Mentimeter.
Yeah. And speaking of Mentimeter, Zainab is sending actually that in the chat. But if you go to mentimeter.com and then you hit /templates, we actually have a bunch of ready to go. And I know we use some of these actually in the team. So here, for example, if you're in business, we have all these different surveys, team reflection, improve listening skills, meeting template. So I would check this out as well.
Yeah.
We also have more fun competitions, and I think you could easily translate this into to retro, right? But Zainab is sending some in the chat, and we'll follow up with that at the end as well. Good that you're using the upvotes as well. We can see here.
Yeah, no, seeing the two
there. How do you get the most effect from the retro after it's finished? What's next? How do you keep the openness in your team and everyday work?
Whoa, yeah, this is a great question as well. So how do you get the most effect from the retro after it's finished? One thing that we do, which I actually didn't mention here, but we start the next retro looking at what did we decide on the last retro. Like, so kind of an accountability there. And I think the key here also, like we kind of set everyone up for success by limiting it to one thing, right? Like, so if we had a long list of things that we decided that we should do, it's difficult to kind of because then all of a sudden people are like, oh, but we did half, that's fine, right? Like it's not really clear like what you're hoping the effect will be. So what is next? One thing you can also kind of, you can export these as well, or you can kind of revisit them, or if you'd like, you can kind of transfer these to a Slack, or if there's any other tool that you're using to kind of talk about what's to do, like Trello or whatever. And so there are different ways to do that. How do you keep the openness in your team in everyday work? I mean, that's a great question. And I think for me personally, I think one thing is that you like that each team member understands like their role in building this culture, but you as a team leading the way all the time, like just showing by example what you're expecting from your teammates, how to treat each other. I think that's just a very efficient way to do that.
And also, I think using Mentimeter. I know it's a cheesy answer. No, but seriously, I know that like since you have this anonymous tool, right?
Yeah.
It gives a chance for everybody to get their voice heard, and even though it's like anonymous, which isn't an openness at all, it does feed an openness because people are comfortable enough. I mean, it loops into the psychological safety, but they're comfortable enough airing their opinion, and which means you can address things that aren't working. And people feel that they get their voice heard. And that creates that positive loop. Yeah,
and one thing that I don't think like a lot of people know is that it is also possible to kind of just send a link to someone like, hey, can you like, I'm just checking in with everyone. Can you just kind of fill out this Menti? And then you can just send them a link. It doesn't have to be a presentation. It's just more like a survey. So that's a really easy way to just keep checking in with your team and how you're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I won't go through the whole thing now, but as Emelie said, you can also just copy this link and then send it to your participants. And we actually have a video, maybe Zainab, if you want to send that, we have a video on how to create an anonymous survey in Mentimeter. And there you don't get to see the votes. I mean, you as the presenter will see them, but the audience won't.
Exactly. And the results are like instantly packaged like in this.
You'll see them like this. Well, we saw.
There was something.
Let me see if we can save that question. I missed that.
Yeah, I think maybe Zainab.
Zainab, could you send us back that question? I I didn't even see what it was. It must have jumped. Now that you mentioned goals, how do you focus a retro around the team's goals?
So I'm interpreting this as like your team, like maybe your well, what if yeah, that was the one.
Yeah, we'll get to that one. Yeah, thank you, Jenny.
So how do you focus a retro around the team's goals? So from my kind of where I'm at mentally and how I understand this is that our team is working very like we're working on based on like results. Like we have very specific results we're trying to achieve, and it's not like releasing this feature and this feature. It's more like getting this metric up, and that's kind of how I'm interpreting this. That there's like something that there's like an expressed goal. And I mentioned before, like with the, you can kind of ask questions about this, like how do you think we did, and doing a quiz out of it. But I think even that you can find your balance, like how much you want to focus on more like overarching, like the themes that I gave an example of, like the just a general impact and that kind of stuff. But you can move more into like this was a very quick retro that took like 20 minutes. You can spend more time on this and really dig into each one. Like if you already have these goals, really great to structure it around them, and you can kind of you're allowed to kind of generate data on one area and then insights and then generate data again like in another area if you want to go more deeper into each one.
Awesome. I think we have time for one final question. I took it away earlier, but what if the room is silent and everybody just speaks through the Menti?
Yeah, so I guess this can depend on the room and also kind of the size of people. I think this might also be an issue if you have either like a couple are remote and a lot of people are in a room, and then some people are silent, that kind of stuff. I think it is, you can either ask them to speak to each other in a way. I know it can be a bit different, like depending on your hybrid tool when it comes to the people that are remotely, but you can kind of let them speak to each other and then let people talk to each other, because sometimes what's stopping people from speaking is like they're not really sure if this is a weird opinion and it's more easy to share. But I will say this, that I do believe that a lot of times getting that feedback right away, that like, oh, there are actually a lot of people that put the same way that I did, kind of helps people start speaking. So usually one thing that is keeping people from being silent is, as said, I don't know if I'm the only one that feels this way, but if you kind of can see already what the room is feeling, it usually is easier to get people talking. And I mean, I always use the thing of kind of leading by example and sharing my own opinion as well if I feel like it is silent. But yeah, so, and if everybody just speaks through the Menti, I think you also like, you can turn off like comments if that's what you're worried about, like people are actually chatting. But yeah, no, those are some tips around that.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Emelie, and thank you everybody here today for all the questions. We are a few minutes away. We just wanted to give you all the chance here to learn more about Mentimeter Enterprise. And this is our offering for you if you're working in an organization and you want to use Mentimeter within your organization. And maybe if you have a team and you're hosting several retros or several people are going to use it, feel free to submit your email here, and we're happy to reach out to you and talk more about how to use Mentimeter in your company. And obviously, you know, we've just peeked very briefly on the possibilities within Mentimeter, and this was just for retro, but we have a lot of things you can do with the tool, of course. So feel free to submit your email there. We also have a few additional resources for you all.
Yes.
And also a big thank you for participating. So there's the template we have there. We have a blog post, 2 blog posts, and then also the Agile retrospective, the video you were talking about earlier.
Yeah, I can really recommend that one. So.
Yes. Folks, thank you so much. hopefully you've learned a few things. I've definitely learned a lot
Yeah.
here today, and we'd love to hear more from you. It was a great webinar. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm just going to pop back to this. If you want to send us an email, feel free to do that, and we'll reach out to you. And Emelie,
Yeah.
thanks a million for joining us. This was
No.
super fun.
Yeah, this was a lot of fun. It's
Yeah.
actually my first webinar, so yeah.
Oh yes, I forgot. Oh,
Yeah.
I would never have noticed if you didn't say anything. Yeah, Emelie and Oscar, Zeynep,
Aw.
thank you so much. Lovely comments coming in here. And with that said, thank you everybody. Awesome to meet you live. Awesome to see you guys, and thank you for all the engagement. And yeah, see you in a future event.
Yes.
Bye-bye.
Bye.